Hello and welcome to another episode of We Have a Meeting, Trench Tips. Today, me and Zach are going to be talking about the nitty-grittiness of people that are rude to you. As you can imagine, in the cold calling game, it would be fair to say that I've had my fair share of people telling me to F off the front door. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I probably get it on a daily basis. And yeah, I'm still coming back for more. What am I, sick? Sick in the head?
You sound a little bit sick with that. It happened. It's part of the game. So I think that there was kind of two things I wanted to focus on today is the mindset of when people are rude or horrible back to you, because your ego can really take a beating. So I want to talk about mindset, and then maybe you can get into like the disarming of how you actually do it. So if somebody hits you back, it would be very easy to break down and cry. Don't get me wrong. I've probably had my time breaking down and crying on a call before. And I know that you've had some very interesting calls, but let's talk about the mindset of it. So I'm under the impression, and I was talking about this in the sales training workshop this week. I'm under the impression that if somebody is rude to you or they say, yeah, I want to hang up, it's very easy to get your ego a bit bruised and be like, oh, but that's where you're like attaching yourself to the phone call. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, no, sorry, Jack, I would agree with that completely. That is probably the number one bit of advice. It's around, we think that they're rejecting us. They're not rejecting you, are they? They're just rejecting being bothered or having a call, or they're really busy or whatever. No, they don't know. The person you've called doesn't know you, so they can't reject you. It's nothing personal against you. It's just the notion of having a cold call. They don't want to have that. And everyone's within their right to be able to say that.
Yeah, and you are within your right. And to be fair, like, do you know what I mean, someone's called you. Are you within your right to be horrible or nasty? It says a lot more about the prospect that you call in. So I did a little exercise with in this sales training. I think you'll like it. I get someone up and I say, right, I'm gonna kind of pitch you. I'm gonna say, look, this is a sales call. Do you want to hang up? And you've got to be as horrible as you can back. But the thing is, I was like, you can be horrible to me, but you can't say anything about me physically. You can't say, oh, that bloke's eyes are too close together, I'm hanging up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you can say, like, what you're going to say. What you're going to say.
Right, I'll call you. You be horrible to me.
Oh, I don't want to be horrible to you. Can you be horrible
Just
to
be
me?
horrible to me. I won't sack you. Just be horrible to me. All right. So, ring, ring.
Hello.
Is that Jack?
Yeah.
Jack, I'll be completely upfront. It's actually a sales call. I don't know if you hate salespeople.
Yeah, I do. You're a low-life scumbag. Why don't you get yourself a proper job instead of bothering me all bloody day?
Sounds like you're having a tough time.
Oh, yeah, I am actually. It's been a little bit tricky at the moment. No, but I think that you've jumped right into it there, the disarmingness of it. Like, oh, wow. So what did you do there? Talk me through the psychology behind it.
So that is from the great Chris Voss's book. We might be having someone close to him on our podcast soon.
Okay.
But that is called labeling. So basically, that is you're labeling the way you think someone feels, but it has quite a disarming effect. Often as human beings, we just want to be heard. Mm-hmm. So if someone's sounding frustrated or sounding like they're having a tough time, sometimes it's just enough just to say to them, sounds like you're having a tough time, or sounds like that's frustrating. I do it with my children all the time. They don't want me to like solve the problem for them while they're in an emotional state. They sometimes just want me to say, that sounds really hard work, mate. That sounds really frustrating. Yeah. And suddenly it disarms. But that would be my number one in most scenarios where people are being negative. Try and label the way they're probably feeling, and it might work.
Yeah, and if you push it, it's be like, oh, do you know what I mean? You sound annoyed. I bet you're frustrated because you're probably I bet you signed up to TSP and you probably get 100 cold calls. Yeah, I do actually. And what's the worst thing about them? Well, they just bombard me with, hi, how are you? All right. Did you notice I didn't say that, Derek? Do you know what I mean? And all of a sudden you can have this. So you've got a great story. You had a cold call where someone said something awful to you, but you also turned it around and you ended up booking a meeting with her. Is that right?
Yeah. So someone said to me, I used that one there. So it's a sales call. I'm not sure if you hate salespeople. And she went, yeah, when people cold call me, I usually tell them to go and hang themselves in the corner of the room.
Awful.
awful. And I said, all right, well, do you want to tell me that? And she went, well, no, because I don't know what it's about. I said, right, well, should we take 30 seconds? If you don't like it, then I'll hang up.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. So I did my usual piece. She said, so what will you say to that? Well, I know what I want to say to that, but what I should say is I want you to go and anyway, totally disarmed. It wasn't what she was used to hearing, and she's obviously used to wearing the trousers. And I imagine in the office it's a bit of a send all cold callers to her, and she'll be the guillotine. But yeah, so I ended up booking that meeting in. It was for a client, so I don't know how that went. That poor client, like never. The heavy drinkers now, I think, after that one. But yeah, I've had loads and loads of them. But yeah, it's part of the thing about cold calling is when you've had one of those to jump straight back in and just do another one straight away. Don't let it deter you. Just get on with it straight away.
It just means nothing, does it? And I understand that your ego can be bruised and it can be so easy to kind of be thrown off topic, but it's just it really in the grand scheme of things, we're all gonna die. None of it matters. You know what I mean? And that's what it all boils down to. But I think that there's what one piece of advice would you give to somebody you're quite seasoned in the game, someone new on the phone, it's their first or second day cold calling, and somebody goes, I effing hate cold calls. How are you going to react? What kind of advice would you say? How would you react in that moment?
Well, there's a few ways that you could deal with that. So one is the labeling thing that I said there. I effing hate cold calls. So, wow, sounds like you really hate cold calls. So, yeah, I do. And then they've got a feeling of being heard. Like I've heard them, I'm not trying to bombard them and just like, well, if I take a bit of time and I'll just tell you what it's about. Just, wow, sounds like you really hate cold calls. And you drop your tone lower than theirs, drop the volume lower than theirs. That's quite a calming effect. The other thing is, obviously, the approach that we use, people are well within the rights to hang up. So you could say, okay, it sounds like you might need to hang up. And I would say a lot of those people are going to say, well, no, because I don't know what it's about yet.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But it's not always just about knowing what to say in those moments. Some people aren't used to being spoken to like that, and nor should they be used to being spoken to like that. So it's getting comfortable with every day when I sit down, most of these people are going to say no. I only need one or two people to say yes. And suddenly that changes the landscape of my whole month.
And that, I think that was, without obviously ramming it down people's throats, we are advocates of look, do you want to hang up or do you want to talk? Like, I've got a job to do, you've got a job to do, there might be some synergy, let's talk. I feel like if you do go for hey, how are you? It's Tommy here from XYZ.balls or whatever. Do you know what I mean? That's going to aggravate people more, because all of a sudden, I said it's like this little radar, like the inner gatekeeper going, is it a sales call? Is it not?
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. It's a sales call. You pull that big lever and the floor opens and you just want to go do one. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's some good advice. I think if you could take anything, obviously there's different approaches. If you do feel, I wouldn't say I get awful calls on a daily basis. You get the odd one, but it's not that bad.
No, I get some bad cold calls though.
Oh yeah, we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I would say that. So it's all about mentality being right before and get comfortable in rejection. You're doing a job where you're going to get mostly rejection. So if that is uncomfortable to you and you feel like that's going to change, maybe look for a new job. It's as simple as that. And the other thing is, most people want to be heard. So if someone sounds frustrated, just by saying you sound frustrated, you'll be amazed at the disarming effect that can have. And also remind people they can hang up if they need to. They would be my top 3 takeaways. And would you remind people that they're all going to die, or should we probably say that for off the phone? I don't usually remind. I usually whisper it throughout the call. Like that, different bits when they're talking. We're all going to die. All right. Thank you.